What if there was one relatively simple way to make the entire arrangement process easier, to make your tracks more cohesive, to make your entire life as a composer, songwriter, producer, whatever you do, just easier? Well, there kind of is, and it's that super top secret tip that the pros just don't want you to know about writing music, and it's writing music, as in actually writing it down or capturing it in MIDI or recording it in some way. Pretty much any way that you can capture it, get that initial idea out of your head into reality and start to edit it, start to develop it, start to compose. So today I'm going to show you kind of what that looks like in my own process of writing music. As a society, we've come to associate unscripted and unedited with pure or raw or better. Overall, people just don't trust edits anymore. They don't trust what they see because they really can't. I mean, for all you know, I'm not even real. I could be AI right now. Although, if I were, kind of think my human overseer would have given me a stronger hairline. And these videos that you watch on this channel are most certainly scripted. Even this, I don't know if you've noticed or seen a live stream that I've done, but I tend to stumble over my words and talk in circles and get kind of lost if I don't have some sort of guideline to go by. So I jot down some talking points and keep myself on track by looking over here at them every once in a while between takes. And here's the thing. Composition is also an edited process. If it were not, we would not call it composition, we would call it an improvisation. Different skill set, different thing entirely, although improvisation can be used to lead to a composition if we take those improvised ideas and develop them. But if you want to be more intentional about this process of composition, then you need to get the ideas out of your head, which means capturing them in some way and then developing them further from there. I recently went through a period of improvising at the piano first thing in the morning when I would come into the studio before I ever turned my computer on, before I fired up any hardware synths or anything like that. And this was really therapeutic in a way, and I did enjoy it. However, I came away from that experience with shockingly very little music to show for it. I wasn't recording these ideas. I wasn't even jotting anything down like I normally would when I come up with something that I find interesting and might want to develop later. And I know for a fact that there were a lot of moments where I was like, ooh, I need to remember that for later. But I never did. And those moments are gone forever. I don't get to develop them now. I don't have perfect pitch. I don't have an eidetic memory. I am not a genius, so I need to capture those ideas so that I can develop them later. Otherwise, they are just gone, and I've lost that opportunity to develop them. And this happens a whole lot when I play synthesizers because there is the added desire to tweak the sound itself. And then I can very easily lose that idea that I thought was really cool while I'm tweaking the sound. By the time I come back to playing, that idea is gone. And that may be another topic for another video entirely, because I do think the sound that you're playing with does affect you in a way, and it makes you make choices that you wouldn't make without that sound to inspire you. So I still love improvising on synthesizers, but I have to be even more disciplined when I'm improvising with a synth than the piano because of that added temptation. So I've just gotten in the habit of any time that I'm playing around with a synth, I make sure that I have the MIDI being captured in my DAW so that I can go back and play around with the sounds, but I also have that material that I might like, that I can isolate out and develop further from there. I want to go back and add something just to clarify, because I got a really great question from someone enrolled in my composition course, and they just asked, how do I organize all of these ideas once I have them sketched out? They specifically ask, do you use some combination of style, key signature, BPM, instrumentation, rhythm, or other criteria? And the answer is, I really don't think about any of that stuff. Maybe style and instrumentation at the beginning of the process, because what I do think about is a compositional prompt at the beginning, which is usually just words that I jot down in a notes app on my phone. And this can be something as simple as start with a drone note and create a 4-chord progression underneath that drone note that never doubles. None of the notes in the progression ever double that droning note, and I can never repeat the same chord twice in that progression. That is a prompt. That's a jumping off point for an idea. And then I'll just pick a key when I go to the piano. I'll pick a starting key for my drone note. If you have keyboard skills, sometimes it's really effective to start in a key signature that you're less comfortable with, that's not a go-to for you, so that you are forced to find new places to go and your fingers aren't just doing all the work with muscle memory, places you've been before. But as soon as you have this initial prompt, name it. Give it a name, give it a purpose. And I found once I do that, I have a much higher chance of actually finishing that idea, developing it into something greater. So a lot of you may be trying to figure out how to get work in film or something like that, and you're waiting for someone to assign you a project like this. You can assign yourself a project like this. In fact, you need to do that to get in the habit of finishing things, because that's a different skill set entirely than just coming up with a bunch of ideas and stockpiling them and then never getting around to finishing them. So before I ever even start writing ideas down, before I write down the first note, I already have an assignment, a purpose in mind for that idea. And that purpose can change by the time I get to the end of it, but if you start with giving that project a name, giving yourself even a date to finish it by, a purpose, that's going to lead to you finishing more of your ideas, and they won't just get stuck in the idea graveyard of your hard drive or your staff paper sketchbook or whatever you use. As you may have noticed, because I spent basically an entire year talking about harmony, I love carefully chosen harmonies. I love carefully crafted melodies. I love detail work. I love getting in there and tweaking things, even more sometimes than coming up with the initial idea itself, because I often find that there's so much within an idea or a very simple melodic theme that I can coax out of it that I would have never even thought was in there. So my personal challenge over the years has been balancing that love of detail work with making sure that I can quickly get ideas captured in some form. And for me, this usually just means working out a literal sketch with pencil and paper. If you have some basic notation skills, nothing will ever be faster than this. Like, you can go down the technology route if you want, but I don't want anything coming between me and getting the idea out of my head. And this is the fastest method that I have found. And I'm not talking about a finished piece of music. This does not have to be perfect. This is just the bones, the framework of an idea, so that I can recall it in my own shorthand. I don't know if you can see this, but this happens to be the original manuscript for the Waltz in G minor, which I've used as an example on this channel so many times of various compositional concepts. And this is how it started. It's a miracle that it survived the studio move, but here it is. And if you notice there, I do things like just jot down the general accompaniment idea and then the direction of the phrase. Not even all of the notes have to be perfect at this point. I even write in with words, like the second time it's gonna go up at the end, so that's like the answer to my question and answer theme. Sometimes I don't even write in the stems. Sometimes I just start the idea because I can kind of remember it from there. I also write in chord names because I know that I want to go to those particular colors, but I don't necessarily know how I want to get there in a linear, horizontal part writing sort of way. So this method gives me enough to be able to decipher on my own. I don't ever have to show it to anyone else if I don't want to. And if I didn't have a YouTube channel where I taught about this kind of stuff, I most certainly would not. And once I get to this stage, then I can start to experiment because I have a solid foundation to work from. And I'm coming from a place of focus and intentionality rather than overwhelm, because I don't even know what my initial idea was when I start trying to do variations on it. This is such a simple concept, but it's something that I have to remind myself of, so hopefully it can help some of you too. And for you, this might just look like recording stuff into MIDI. If you're less comfortable with notation, MIDI is a helpful tool for us these days. Doesn't really matter what tool you use, just that you understand this concept of I need to capture an idea before I can develop that idea. Even recording something with your phone is a better way than just letting it go into the ether. At least you can kind of pick things out by ear later. I explain this in more detail in a free ebook that I made on composition that I still think holds true to this day. It walks you through some more of these principles that I like to use and goes into a bit more detail with more examples. It's free to download down in the description below if you're interested. Hopefully it'll get you started and give you some new ideas, new inspiration for your own workflow. As I mentioned, writing for synthesizers can be a little bit of a different process, and if you want to see a video that I made last year on that topic, that goes a bit more into detail about sound design and things like that, I have that for you right here.